Hi there, and thank you for joining us today. During these chaotic and unsure times, we at Urban Associates felt it was essential for us to share with small business owners the necessity of having a business continuity plan in place. Today, you're going to hear about some of the key mistakes that we see and some of the top components your plan should include. Speaking today is Urban Associates President James Erben. Hailing from Austin, Texas, Jim and the team at Urban Associates help business owners exit in style and ensure they can live happily ever after. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy our webinar on business continuity plans.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Erben, President of Erben Associates. We've been dealing with a lot of our clients around the country on their business continuity plans and how this current pandemic has impacted their business continuity plans. So we wanted to spend a few minutes and talk to you about it. The plan for business continuity is one of the 6 major objectives that we work on in helping business owners figure out how they want to exit their business and leave it in style. The reason you plan for business continuity is because sometimes things happen. In this case, it was a completely unexpected pandemic and economic shutdown, but nonetheless, there is a call for adjustments to a business continuity plan. The top 4 problems that we address in continuity plans are loss of business owner skill or leadership, which doesn't really apply to this current situation, but certainly loss of financial resources, loss of key talent, and loss of employees and customers. I think 3 of those 4 may be in play for several of you listening to this. The top 10 continuity mistakes that we see are there's no written plan. In absence of written plan, there's speculation because it's not a proactive communication. It's going to lead to speculation. Speculation about who's in charge, who does what. There's not a plan that will address what will happen to ensure the continued operation of the business. Typically, when we have been brought in after an incident has occurred where there is no written plan, we find confusion and we find different people have different interpretations of what exactly was supposed to transpire. And that leads to complete chaos in an organization. We also have too many people that we find that rely on their buy-sell shareholder agreement and assume it to be comprehensive, and that's simply not the case. Buy-sell shareholder agreement is meant to dictate what happens to the ownership of the company in the event of a premature death, incapacitation, or perhaps some sort of a buyout. It does not address who's taking over the ship, who's in charge of financial, what's being communicated to the customers, what's being communicated to the staff and key executives. It's unclear who's in charge and what's expected of them. And this goes back to culture, which I'm going to speak about in a moment. Everybody tends to be running around absent a structured, communicated plan and wondering what to do. The plan does not address key executive retention. Studies have shown that in the event of an incident involving the primary owner or one of the primary owners of a business, the key executive thinks of 2 things. First of all, they think of, oh, poor Mrs. Smith. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith passed away. I hope she and her family are going to do okay. The second thing they think about is, what about me? Do I need to update my resume? Do I need to reach out to some competitors or talk to other people who can get me a job in the event this one doesn't work because, we may not survive? All of these things lead to complete productivity halts among your key executives when you most need them. Typically in a continuity plan, the funding structure or mechanism for a buyout is not up to speed. And typically prior to this, we've been talking about death or incapacitation. Now we're talking about the importance of having access to cash and capital to keep your business afloat. I don't think every time we have future pandemics or things like this, the government is necessarily going to come out with a couple of $1 trillion and have us go seek relief from them. Perhaps what will come of this are some emergency only lines of credit, things of this nature where in the event something happens, it is clear from the bank or lending institution that loaned it to you that you're going to reach out and grab some capital to keep your lights on and your business afloat. By the way, in shareholder agreements, as long as we're going to talk about it, shareholder agreements rarely deal with an adequate buyout of an incapacitated business owner, which, by the way, is more likely than a premature death. Incapacitation results in no life insurance being paid to buy out the incapacitated partner. And as a result, many times the business is frozen because the survivors of the incapacitated partners do not have the financial means, nor does the business, to buy them out, and it is left in a quandary. The eighth thing that we see almost 95% of the time is personal wealth and business continuity plans are misaligned. Most of you listening to this may understand that your business is your largest asset, yet typically different groups of advisors do your business continuity plan and different groups of advisors do your personal wealth plan. And there's no structure between the two, and there's no interplay between the two. And that is so critical, and especially when your business may be such a large part of your personal wealth. The ninth thing, which I am going to speak about now, is the impact of a fractured culture. Every business has a culture, many of them very good. I have seen the impact of culture over calamities in history, if you will, going back to 9/11, going back to the 2001 dot-com bust, all of these things. What I've seen is companies that have an outstanding culture thrive in all of these areas related to culture. For example, Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines is the poster child of culture, certainly in the airline industry, and I would argue in every industry. And there are countless stories that companies like Southwest Airlines have hunkered down, kept their employees, and relied on their culture to get them through the tough times so that they could thrive quicker than those companies that didn't have an effective culture. Things that we're doing during these times are we're getting together several times a week as a group on video conferencing via LifeSize, and we're having discussions related to how are things going in your personal life. We're having lunch, virtual lunches and virtual happy hours, which are fun. On the business front, we're having weekly staff meetings and other meetings where I'm encouraging people not to call one another, but video one another so that they feel like they're in the office. I want them to lean on each of us to get done the things that they have indicated that they're going to get done during the week. They're being held accountable just like they are when they're in a normal office environment. Our culture needs to be strong so that we can survive things like this. And I encourage you to not only don't dismiss culture during this time, but bring it up to the forefront. And finally, there's no pre-established external support system for new leadership. Typically what happens is, if you want to use the analogy of, once the captain has gone down, now who's going to step up and steer the ship? There needs to be structure on who would take over in the event of a business continuity event, whether it is premature death, incapacitation, owners out of the country and a pandemic hits, a variety of these things. They need to be groomed, and they need to be instructed on how to run the business for a period of time, up to a year, absent the primary owner. These are critical items that I've seen. So what are ways to protect your business? For starters, write an emergency operating plan. Think of it as the fire extinguisher covered with glass that says, in the event of fire, break glass. That's how we look at it. Design a disaster recovery plan that protects your client files, allows you to go digital, allows you to go remote. We had prepared for this, so this was not much of a challenge for us 10 days ago when we decided to go, before it was in vogue, when we decided to go virtual. Institute a key executive retention plan for a couple of reasons. First of all, in times like this, I want to make sure that my key executives are on par, are engaged and ready to hunker down and then roll out of this and thrive whenever we're able to get back to a normal workplace. Align your buy-sell agreement and your emergency operating plan. That will create utter chaos if you don't. I want to go over business continuity is not a buy-sell agreement. Again, a buy-sell agreement dictates where future ownership of the business goes, spouses, key executives, partners, in the event of death or incapacitation. It determines how the buyout will be funded and the terms of the payments. Incapacitation is frequently addressed but does not adequately handle the buyout structure for the incapacitated owner, and that causes a massive problem in the business, as you can well imagine. So as you can see on the screen, an emergency operating plan and shareholders agreement, loss of business ownership skills and leadership, buy-sell doesn't cover. Loss of financial resources, buy-sell typically doesn't cover unless there happens to be key man insurance to provide capital in the company. Loss of key talent, it certainly doesn't cover that, and loss of employees and customers. What should a written plan include? What roles and responsibilities need to be passed, and to whom will they be passed? What is the plan to retain these key employees? And what is the business owner or partner, what is your vision and culture? And has it been captured in writing? A prioritized list of who needs to be contacted in the event of in the event something unexpected happens, and who's going to contact them. Imagine your largest customer calling the day after a major event happens, and they're wondering if you're going to be able to fulfill your obligations to the client. Who's going to contact vendors, bankers, legal team? What's going to be said? This needs to be scripted. Loose lips sink ships. And I want to make sure that whoever calls our office, if something happens to me, knows exactly what's to be said to ensure that our clients know that everything is fine. Please take a moment and think about the changes that you need to make in your business continuity plans. This is a critical time for all of us. Please hug your key people and all of your staff, because if they're being managed well, they're doing a very fantastic job and doing everything they can do given the guidance that they received from you. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Have a safe quarantine period, if you will, and let's come out of this and thrive again. Thank you all, and have a great week and weekend.